I'd like to call the meeting to order for Tuesday, October 4th, of the City Council, the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. And we will have the flag salute led by our City Attorney, Steve Quintanilla.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Hobart.
Here.
Councilmember Kite.
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Townsend.
Here.
And Mayor Weil.
Here. This week is Fire Prevention Week. And as we do every year to help raise awareness for this important event, we're presenting a proclamation to our fire department acknowledging Fire Prevention Week. This year we are highlighting the importance of replacing smoke alarms every 10 years. The theme for this year's fire prevention is Don't Wait, Check the Date. Replace smoke alarms every 10 years. I would like to call Division Chief Dan Halbert and the other firefighters present to come up to the front of the room to discuss replacing smoke alarms and to receive the proclamation.
What happens if a fire started like right now somewhere? I would sure hate to be.
You would see these gentlemen running out of the room, getting on fire apparatus.
Well, I've got both fingers crossed. I want you to know that.
That would make sense. Honor Mayor, Council, it is again my pleasure to come before you and address fire safety issues here within the city of Rancho Mirage. As the mayor so eloquently stated, that this year's theme is Don't Wait, Check the Date. Smoke detectors save lives. They have and will continue to do so. But over the last 20 years, the importance of smoke detectors has grown significantly due to the changes of fuels within our homes. And when I mean fuels, I mean everything that is inside of your homes. 20, 30 years ago, most of those products were of a natural material, cotton, wool. Now they're all synthetic. Synthetics are just oil by a different form. They all have their base in oil. And because of that, fires get larger, hotter, and faster. So the amount of time that a family has to leave their home has become smaller. So smoke detectors providing that early warning will let people know to leave their home. And even though smoke detectors are exceptionally important and everyone should have them and potentially have multiple of them, and if anyone in the community has a question about their placement, they can call their local fire station and we'll be glad to help them. In addition to that, I really want to encourage them to have a gathering point, have exit drills in their home, know where to go and when to leave, and do not go back inside. So again, I appreciate the city's recognition of Fire Prevention Week, which coincides with the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire, and I appreciate the city's proclamation. Thank you.
You might want to
Introduce the staff?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'll let Captain Ringhofer do that.
I gotta remember names now? My name is Jay Ringhofer, fire captain at the North Rancho Mirage Station. Tom McBride here is my paramedic extraordinaire from Station 69. Mort Allen works at the Stevens Hollow Station 50, South End. Charles Essling, firefighter at Station 69. We have Justin Karp, who is our new engineer at Station 69, officer manager. Chris Acevedo. There is also firefighter paramedic at Station 69, works on Medic 69. Then we have, are you or your brother? Okay, Matt Sampson, he's got a twin brother, so when his brother was here, we don't know what his name is. I would have to check. Matt Sampson is the firefighter paramedic at Station 50, and then Tony Wright there, is the engineer working at Station 50. And what we want to do today, I'm ready for it.
Thank you, guys. We just can't say enough good things about you. The response time and what you have done, and the comments that we get from our residents is just unparalleled. And so thank you so very much for everything you do. And I will present this, if I may.
I beg your pardon.
And I'll skip a lot of the whereases, Dan.
Okay.
But the City of Rancho Mirage is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city. Fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally. Homes are where people are at the greatest risk of fire. Only a small percentage of people know how old their smoke alarms are or how often they need replaced. The NFPA and Fire Prevention Week are addressing smoke alarm replacement this year with a focus on smoke alarms to be replaced every 10 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Ted Weil, Mayor of Rancho Mirage, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim October 9 to 15, 2016 as Fire Prevention Week. Dan, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks again, everybody. All right, the next introduction that I'd like to make is to somebody that is important to us, who we also consider a good friend and part of the family. And it's what makes our community so close to law enforcement. When you hear an awful lot about law enforcement and maybe some of the not so pleasant things in other cities due to circumstances, we are blessed with a sheriff's department that is friendly and important to us. We have staff meetings every Tuesday where somebody from the sheriff's department is represented. I know for a fact, and my colleagues kid me about being a Starbucks devotee, but as I mentioned to the captain, I regularly have coffee with one of the sheriff's representatives who's kind enough to be there. That being said, I would like to introduce Lieutenant John Shields to please come up to the podium, who will introduce Captain David Teets.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff. It is my pleasure to introduce Captain David Teets, who's the new commander of the Palm Desert Station, who in that position is also the Chief of Police for Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert, and Indian Wells, and a great guy who has done amazing things since he's been here. So without further ado, Captain David Teets.
Hi, thank you, Mayor, council members, city staff, and citizens who are here today. I'll keep my comments very brief. I'm honored to be here today. It's wonderful to be back in the city of Rancho Mirage and amongst all these familiar faces. It is a very great feeling. I want each of you to know that I look forward to being your chief of police here in the city of Rancho Mirage. My top priority is to keep our city safe by providing the best law enforcement services possible and the best to my ability. Again, as I said, I would keep my comments very brief, but again, it is wonderful to be back in the city of Rancho Mirage.
Great. And Captain Teets, we're delighted to have you back here.
Thank you.
The next will be the non-agenda public comments, an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. The first request is from Gary Luters.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Gary Luters. I am a resident of Rancho Mirage. I'm also a lifelong bicycle rider, but I'm not here today to talk about CV Link. Like, whoa, okay. I am here representing all bicycle riders in the community. My concern is bicycle safety. The city is all for bicycle riding, many miles of bicycle trails in the valley, in the city, and I applaud you for that. Thank you very much. It's very good. Bicycle safety is my big concern, especially as I age, and I have a lot of people who tell me that they want to ride bicycles in our community, but they are afraid to do so because of riding on the roads. All the bike trails, bike lanes that are on roads, I ride on them, but a lot of people have issues with cars going past them at 50 miles an hour, especially now in the era of cell phones, distracted drivers. So I want to point out to you that Section 24, the new development, north side of the area here, there's a whole discussion in the plan on the complete streets plan. It talks about bicycle boulevards, off-street bicycle multi-use paths, and they're very pro-bicycle oriented in that development. I'm recommending that we look at all areas of our city to have off-street paved bike paths, and it would be a lot safer for citizens who want to ride, but they're afraid to get out on the public streets. So, you know, I have a lot of experience cycling, and if you want any assistance from me, I'll be glad to help you out on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rita Wood.
Yes, I was here about approximately a year ago, and you hopefully recognize the back cover, which at that time you approved in support of the Rancho Mirage Women's Club. And so, yes, we are raising funds again this year. And I will say last year's funds were gratefully received. One of the recipients every year is Rancho Mirage Elementary School. And Principal Marcia Boring calls us her guardian angel. So you know your money is going into good hands. So I'm here today to ask that you would approve the $1,000 for the back page advertisement on the Rancho Mirage Women's Club program book again this year.
Thank you. And there's no question it's a worthy cause. And if, as you know, we have a procedure regarding the donations from the city. It's called the SAF Committee. And we have an application process. If you would be kind enough to submit that process to Gloria Griego, then it'll be processed with all of the other requests.
Except, and I have filled out the application, and she sent it back. It said it was incomplete. I didn't have all the attachments. But this really is not a donation. You are purchasing an ad, is what you're doing. And the money does go to the Rancho Mirage Women's Club, which is a 501(c)(3). But technically, you're getting something in return. So it's not really a donation. It's actually the purchase of an ad.
Well, thank you, but we do consider that a donation, whether it's an ad or otherwise. And if you would complete the balance of that application, it'll be processed and along with the many others, and we'd be delighted to take a look at it again. There's no debating the fact that it's a worthy cause.
Okay.
But that is the process, if you'd be so kind.
Right. And I will follow through. And if in case in the meantime you want to discuss it and approve it, because we do need the copy by December 20th. So, okay. Thank you.
The next would be city council comments, unless there are anyone else that in the audience that did not fill out a form. Seeing none, we will go to city council board comments. Richard?
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody today for this very special meeting. I just want to spend a couple of minutes and bring you up to date with what's going on over at the high school and their football program. This Friday, they begin regular league play against Coachella Valley. And since the last time we met, they beat Palm Desert 52-0. And then last week, they were ended by a real strong San Jacinto team that beat them 14-0. So going into league play, they're 3-2. They've really got a great program. And this week's game happens to be homecoming. So they're going to be having a special event out there on the grounds of the high school between 3:15 and 7 o'clock. 7 is when the game actually starts. They'll have food and other treats out there. And then during the evening, they're planning on doing a fireworks display if the city council approves it. So we're hopeful the council will approve the item. But if you want to really have a great time, come out to a Rancho Mirage football game. You'll really enjoy it. And you can say, "Go Rattlers." Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman?
You're going to have to get that copyrighted, Richard.
Councilman Kite is no question our cheerleader on the council for the Rattlers. Dana, do you have any?
No, thank you.
Okay, Charlie?
Yes, I do. I have two, and I will read them. CPR and first aid classes at the Jocelyn Center. This 4-hour course will provide you with a 2-year certification in adult, child, and infant CPR and first aid. This card will meet all certified employee requirements, and you will receive your card that day. This class is intended to be fun and very educational. The instructor, Wayne Bennett, is a retired fire captain with over 30 years experience, and he has been a CPR and first aid instructor for over 20 years. His experience brings to the class a real world approach to CPR and to first aid. Each person will have their own mannequin to avoid sharing while providing more hands-on timing. This is a very good point. The CPR and first aid training will be on Friday, October the 7th, so it's coming right up. It's from 12 to 4 p.m. It's at the Jocelyn Center. It is $49.95 per person, and you can call the center at 760-340-3220, extension 108 to register, and that is Diane Silverstone who can help you with that. The second announcement, if I may, is the flu shot clinic. On Wednesday, October 19th, the city will be offering a free flu shot clinic for Rancho Mirage seniors. The clinic will be held at the Rancho Mirage Library beginning at 9 a.m. and continuing to the run out of the vaccine and ending at 11. Seniors, however, need to provide evidence of their senior status and Rancho Mirage residency to get the free flu shot. The city also provides financial support to, again, the Jocelyn Center of Palm Desert, and they also will be having a free flu shot day on October 28th, if you can't make the one here at City Hall, and that's from 9 till noon. Information on this is on the city's website here, or you may contact City Hall at 760-324-4511 for further information. And I think these are two great programs, and you certainly should look into attending and getting your free flu shots. Thank you.
Charlie, what was the date here at City Hall?
Date here at City Hall is
19th.
October 28th.
October 28th.
And that's from 9 o'clock till noon.
19th was at the library. 19th at the library?
At the library.
October 19th? What did he say?
October 19th is at the library.
October 19th is the library, and the Jocelyn is the 28th, I'm sorry.
See?
So we have
Got
two
it?
going.
Everybody got it?
Everybody got it right? Including
Okay.
me?
Iris?
Okay, well, I have three important announcements. And first, I'll start out with an update on a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and I hope to everyone else's also. It's a very important issue, especially here in Southern California, and it's called the Great California Shakeout Earthquake Drill. The city will be participating in the Great California Shakeout Drill on Thursday, October 20th at 8:30 a.m. And this earthquake drill is practiced by millions of people, and staff members at City Hall and the library will be participating and conducting the drop, cover, and hold on earthquake drill, and then briefly evacuating the buildings as part of the simulation. And if you may remember that there was a large picture of me under my desk in City Hall a couple years back. Needless to say, we take this very seriously, and we hope you will too. As we participate in this important earthquake drill, we encourage our residents to take the opportunity to think about their own earthquake preparedness. Do you have enough food and water for 7 days? And do you have a communications plan with your loved ones? You can learn more about the Great California Shakeout by visiting our city's website or go to ranchomirage.preparedness.org. So if you are not prepared, if you don't already have the supplies, if you don't already have a plan, now is the time to really get things going in your household and maybe with the neighbors around you. And just try to put something together where you're all prepared in case there is something you should need to be prepared with. Anyway, moving on to another issue regarding preparedness is the CERT, which is the Community Emergency Response Team. And we're going to have a training session for Rancho Mirage residents. It is going to be on Tuesday through Wednesday through Thursday at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is funded by the City of Rancho Mirage, and it is taught by the Rancho Mirage Fire Department and CAL FIRE, Riverside County Fire Department. It's going to be held at Roy Wilson Training Center, which is off the Interstate 10 freeway. And the class size is limited to 40 students, Rancho Mirage residents or employees of businesses in Rancho Mirage only, and registration is required. There is no charge to take this class. It will be paid for by Rancho Mirage, and the registration form is required, so please contact the Rancho Mirage City Hall by calling 760-324-4511 or visiting our website. I know I've spoken about this CERT training on numerous occasions, and we are so proud in Rancho Mirage that we can offer this at no charge to our residents and our business members. So please try to take the opportunity to make yourself more prepared. This is a phenomenal course. It's about 24 hours, and it teaches you things you never think about, but you will usually need in an emergency. And you'll come away with a backpack filled with all kinds of supplies, including a helmet, and also including a vest where you will be able to wear it because you will be the first responder. And as people become first responders, they have the confidence to know what to do in an emergency, and that's what we're trying to teach. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. If you have any questions, go to our website or please call City Hall. And then, going on to a fun project, it's now the 20th anniversary celebration of Rancho Mirage Public Library, and they continue with an incredible program. And it is a return by John Adams on Friday, October 21st at 7 p.m. in the library's community room. George Baker does a superb reenactment of John Adams, his thoughts, his writings, and his love of country. But George brings in a few surprises as he looks, dresses, and sounds like John Adams. And he stays in character through the whole thing. He sings, he plays the library Steinway piano, and this evening is going to be extremely memorable. He has done this 3 times. This will be the 3rd time, actually, that he is returning to Rancho Mirage. He performs to an overflow audience. One of the nicest things is that if you are a Rancho Mirage resident, or a donor to our library, or a volunteer at our library, you are entitled to have a gold card. All you have to do is bring in some type of proof that you are a Rancho Mirage resident, and we will give you a gold card. This enables you to come a few minutes earlier to some of these overflow presentations and be able to have premier seating, and you can sit anywhere you want. In the front if that feels good, or in the back if that feels good. But that way, at least you know you will have a seat in these overflow presentations. We welcome you to come. It's going to be wonderful, and please make yourself available for a number of the presentations that are going to take place at our library. The season has begun, and we're so excited to start off with John Adams. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you at the library.
Thank you, Iris. The next will be the approval of the minutes for September 15th. Does anybody have any corrections or comments?
None?
If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Please vote. Is it working? No, there's nothing on the screen.
Just ask if...
There it is.
There it is.
Okay. The motion is approved 5-0. The next will be the consent calendar, which will be presented by our city manager, Randy Binder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good afternoon. There are 6 items on your consent calendar today. Number 1 is waive full reading of the ordinances introduced today. Items number 2 and 3 are second reading of the ordinances to approve the tribal approved specific plan for Section 24 and the pre-annexation and statutory development agreement. Item number 4 on consent is approval of the fireworks display. Councilman Kite talked about the fireworks show at the homecoming football game on Friday night. That's what this is for, and it is in compliance with the ordinance that is later on your agenda to make sure neighbors are not impacted by noise. Item number 5 is the city manager employment agreement, and item number 6 are contracts, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Can I call poll number 5, please?
Are there any other comments?
I move approval of the consent calendar, unless item number 5.
Is there a second? All in favor, please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. We'll now go to item number 5, the city manager employment agreement. Dana, you asked?
Yes, the reason I pulled it is because in the proposed contract, the employment agreement with Randy Binder, we omitted a portion, and I just wanted to incorporate it. What I would do is I would move that the city council approve the attached proposed city manager employment agreement and direct the city attorney to include section 10 of the original contract.
Is there a second to that motion? That is a
Second.
motion, is it not?
Second.
That is a motion.
And I hear a second. Please
Second.
vote.
Does anybody want to talk? See if the audience wanted to talk about
Okay. Anyone in the audience care to make a comment? Seeing none, the motion is approved and our city manager continues his employment. The next item is the CV link, and I will ask Councilman Hobart to address that.
There was a movie, The Wedding Crashers, one of the all-time great movies. There was a great line in it when one of the two guys said to the other, hey, you're making a turn down Negative Street, which seems to me to be a good introduction to today's update on what's going on with CV Link and the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. As many of you know, and some do not, the city of Rancho Mirage held a vote on whether or not Measure A funds should be used for CV Link, and they also made a motion as to whether CV Link should be permitted within most of the street boundaries of Rancho Mirage. Indian Wells decided that they would put on the ballot for their coming November election a motion to the effect that CV Link not be permitted in the streets of Indian Wells. In other words, to exclude it. The leadership of CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Tom Kirk, along with Jan Harnick, former mayor and now councilwoman from Palm Desert, or maybe she's mayor pro tem, I'm not sure.
Yes, yes.
Somewhere along the line, they got an idea. I have no insight as to how it came to them, but the idea was this. Somebody thought, and then confirmed to some extent, that about 10 years ago, the city of Indian Wells received somewhere around $5 million of Measure A funds for preparation of sound walls to help block the noise from the street. They decided that there was an argument to be made that that was not a proper use of Measure A. I can assure you, if they examined everybody, they would find a number of improper uses of Measure A over the decades, but they zeroed in on Indian Wells. And they've made a big deal about it, including they put it on the Transportation Commission agenda for just a day or two ago, seeking the commission to approve findings that some $5 million was misappropriated to Indian Wells, and therefore Indian Wells would have to pay that money back. Now, it just happens to come at the same time there's going to be a public referendum to be voted on in November to keep CV Link out, if that's what they want, out of their streets. This effort seems most disingenuous, and I would remind them not only are there statutes of limitations from which no recourse can be had, and I'm not 100% sure if the statute of limitations is run on CVAG trying to recover that money, assuming that that money was not properly spent. Our city attorney has advised me that he believes that the statute of limitations has run. They're making this move without checking with their attorneys to see if the statute of limitations has run on this effort to reclaim $5 million or so, which is probably because they would have the same advice from their attorneys that it was too late. But they're not asking that question up front. They're going to wait a while on that to bring bad publicity, I'm sure. And I think tomorrow's paper will, tomorrow or the next day, will show the report coming out of the Transportation Commission meeting yesterday. The article will end up saying words to the effect, a claim is being made against the residents of Indian Wells, all of which, I'm sure, is intended to intimidate the voters of Indian Wells that if you don't join with CV Link, we're going to really come after you. We in Rancho Mirage would say to them, fear not. We think they have a defensive statute of limitations. But even more so, how about this for a defense, working it in some manner? There are two watchdogs on the use of Measure A funds in our part of the county, Coachella Valley. Two watchdogs. One is the Executive Committee of the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, CVAG. There is not a single expenditure of Measure A funds that doesn't first require a vote of approval by the Executive Committee of CVAG. So if they think that Indian Wells did something wrong, they magnified it apparently, or accepted it, or ignored it, or whatever they did 10 years ago, when it was their responsibility to say, no, you can't have this, these walls for this reason or that reason. Furthermore, under the original Measure A ordinance back in 1988 and subsequently renewed in 2002, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, which is like the parent to CVAG, RCTC it's called, Riverside County Transportation Commission. Under the ordinance of Measure A, RCTC is placed in charge of all of the expenditures in Riverside County of Measure A funds, which meant that not only did Indian Wells think they were doing the right thing, and CVAG put their stamp of approval on it as it being an okay thing, RCTC, the parent of all of this group, they also had to approve it before any money could be paid on a project that had been constructed by Indian Wells. So these people that are coming after Indian Wells now, I submit, is just part of the political pressure that goes on any city, such as it did on Rancho Mirage when we had our ballot measure for the voters to decide whether or not we would use Measure A funds on projects involving the CV Link. Over 80% of our residents voted against that proposal, that idea. And I'm sure that this is an effort by CVAG and the brain trust behind it to intimidate voters in Indian Wells. And so if I could deliver a message from Rancho Mirage to Indian Wells, it would be stand firm. We will be with you in any manner required of us, and we believe that your vote will seal the outcome of CV Link in your city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Well expressed. And we had quite the meeting on Monday. Rancho Mirage is, as far as CVAG is concerned, is vilified. But we know we're doing the right thing on behalf of our residents. CVAG introduced what could be classified as their expert witness that was, in theory, an independent individual, and upon questioning, and I was chastised for the question, but it turned out this individual was a former employee of CVAG, hardly independent. And I think the paper tomorrow will make some comment that I was that it was objected to my questioning, but indeed it was very prevalent and obvious to me that it was a question that should be raised. So as Dana said, we're very supportive of Indian Wells. We think that they are being improperly done, and I presume the statute of limitations indeed has run. All right, we will now go to the action calendar, and our Economic Development and Marketing Manager, Sean Smith, will talk about the fireworks displays. Sean?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good afternoon. This item is a request of the City Council to amend Chapter 8.38 of the Municipal Code regulating use of fireworks in the City of Rancho Mirage. Fireworks are currently prohibited in Rancho Mirage unless permission is received by the Fire Department, City Manager, and City Council for display by a licensed pyrotechnic operator. Permission is only granted if the applicant mails a notice of the date and time of the proposed display to all properties within 1 mile radius and obtains approval by the fire department on site conditions where the launch will occur, the specific fireworks to be used, and the use of a licensed pyrotechnic operator. For many years, this process has been effective in ensuring successful firework displays throughout our community. However, our experience with the recent display has led us to reevaluate the current regulations and process. In this particular case, the notification to surrounding properties was reported as having been complete, but was not. Additionally, while the type of fireworks used was permissible under fire code, they were extremely disruptive and unsuitable for our community. The result was a number of very startled residents and an unfortunate death of a pet dog that ran into the street and was struck by a vehicle. The proposed amended ordinance and associated application process would ensure that future firework displays are done safely and with the least amount of disruption in the surrounding community. The first significant change being proposed is the prohibition of the use of salutes or similar style fireworks. These fireworks create a very loud concussion sound that is exaggerated by the proximity of our city to the mountains. According to fire personnel and one of the most used pyrotechnic companies in the valley, very successful fireworks shows can be produced and have been produced without these types of fireworks used. In addition to banning the use of these disruptive fireworks, a new permitting process through the city is being proposed. The process would require the issuance of a permit through the processing of a firework display application submitted no sooner than 30 days before the proposed display. After receiving preliminary approval by the City Council, applicants would be required to provide a site plan depicting the launch site and surrounds, a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million naming the city as additional insured, a copy of the notification letter with proof of mailing by a mailing house, and written acknowledgement that salutes and/or similar style fireworks are prohibited and will not be used. Additionally, both the use of prohibited fireworks and the display of fireworks without a permit would be subject to fine. Upon completion of the city's application process, the applicant would be required to furnish the issued permit to fire department personnel before obtaining final authorization. The proposed amended ordinance and application process have been considered by city and fire staff, as well as a tourism, marketing, and special events subcommittee consisting of council members Smotrich, Rich, and Hobart. And with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the attached ordinance amending Chapter 8.38 of the Municipal Code regulating the use of fireworks in Rancho Mirage. Thank you.
Sean, I have a question. How does this affect the upcoming fireworks that the high school is planning on doing?
It doesn't. We actually spoke with representatives of the high school, and they were more than happy to comply with the regulations that would be put in place if this ordinance was approved. And they've concluded the mailing as well as followed all of the directives as submitted by the fire department. So they're essentially in compliance with what we don't even have in place yet.
So the mailing is not a problem?
No, they've already completed that.
Okay, good, thank you. Is there anybody here from the high school?
Yes, there is. In fact, the ASB director is in attendance, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm here for you guys. This is our first homecoming, and so we were kind of going into it thinking, what can we do that's special that no other high school does? And so we came up with this homecoming festival that we're doing this week. As Councilmember Kite said, actually on Thursday from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock is our festival. It's a carnival style festival without any of the rides or things of that nature, all the midway games and food and things of that nature. And it's open to the public, and we want people to come and just kind of enjoy sort of the overall feeling that we've been putting on for this first homecoming that we have. I mean, we appreciate the relationship we have with this city. We kind of know we're like your little child right now, and we always love seeing you at everything we do. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to come. It's going to be a lot of fun, good food, and then the culminating event of the festival is the bonfire, which no one else does, and we did get approval for that. Weather permitting. It is October, and we're aware that when it gets windy, it's not the best thing for fire. So weather permitting, we will have a bonfire in the JV softball field. And again, we're looking at having about 500 students show up to that, plus the band and cheer team. And at that, we will be announcing the homecoming king. And then, of course, the reason I'm here is Friday is our homecoming game. Friday before the game from 5:30 to 6:30 is what we refer to as the pit parties. We're the only high school that I know of that actually does tailgating parties before football games, and we did it to get the students there, to get parents there. Again, it's free. We feed them for free. We have tailgating games there and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's just to set a good environment before they go into the game. And if you've been to any of our football games the past 2 years, you can see that our students appreciate it, and when they act very appropriate and commendable when they are in the stands. And so then that kind of leads into our halftime show, where we will, thanks to the generosity of Jessup Auto Plaza, they're giving us 4 convertibles for the halftime show. We'll be highlighting some of the floats that have been done by some of our classes. And then we will announce the queen, and at that time, once we announce the homecoming queen, that was the point of the fireworks to kind of go off. So that's sort of what we have going on, and we were made aware that make sure you please Tuscany's right by us, and we had that wall right there, and they were the first ones that were notified, and every response, same thing. We invited them, same with I think it's Monte Vista. We invited them on, and the response has been amazing. I mean, it's going to be sold out. It'll definitely be sold out because more and more people want to come, and then they realize, well, you're also having a festival, so they're coming, so the more the merrier. So if there's any questions for me, I'm here to answer them. Otherwise, I just really appreciate your support. Yes?
Have you made sure there won't be any of those so-called salutes or concussion type fireworks in your display?
Oh yes, that was the first thing that I was instructed by the fire marshal, is no. And so we have exactly 100 fireworks going off, and none of the salutes. I didn't even know what a salute was. I learned this myself. So there will be no big bangs. So, and all the fireworks will be shooting right over the football field itself.
What is the timeline on the fireworks?
How
long?
Oh, how long? 3 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, that shows you, right? 100 fireworks, 3 minutes. That tells you a lot right there. It's fast. It's a couple fireworks. There, he had the company we're using. They shoot 40 off, and then it's sort of like your mini grand finale. And we're on a time crunch ourselves because it's a halftime show for a football game. So we're on a limited time schedule. So
it sounds like a great program.
We're getting there. That's
Is this
for sure.
the first time you've done it at this extent?
This is the first time I've ever done a homecoming. Period.
Really?
I came from the middle school. This is all new to these last 4 years have been amazing, and it's all been all new, and it's been a lot of fun. I will tell you that.
Well, I can see you're very enthused over it.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy if it all goes off. Anyway.
So are the fireworks going to be shot right on the football field itself, or away from it?
No, they're gonna, in between the baseball field, the varsity baseball field, and the tennis court, there's a dirt area there. That is where the pyrotechnics company felt that was the best place to shoot them off. So then they'll shoot them, and they travel 300 and something feet, and then they'll go off right around. He knows I need them to go off around the 50-yard line, so he said that's the best spot for them. Even when we do get our north-south wind, he said that's the best spot.
Great.
So
Should be a great event.
I hope so. And I hope if you guys are available, you can definitely come by. All right, thank you.
No, but I do have a comment because I'm very pleased to have been a part of this wonderful committee along with Dana and Sean Smith. putting together these very safe and sensible regulations. We certainly want to do the very best for our city and have a good time at the same time, but be safe and make everyone else safe. So it was an honor to serve on this, and I want to thank Sean Smith and for all his work, along with the rest of the committee.
Thank you, Iris. Any other comments? Any other questions? Any questions at all from the audience of any kind? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a motion, please.
Okay, I will move that the City Council adopt the attached ordinance amending Chapter 8.38 of the Municipal Code regulating the use of fireworks in Rancho Mirage.
Second.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. The next item is the purchase of the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage Spa Suite by Director of Administrative Services, Isaiah Hagerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you today is the purchase of real property, 4 units, 4 residential units, and then the lease back of those units at an annual income of $200,000. So as part of the operating covenant between the City of Rancho Mirage and New Age Rancho Mirage LLC, the city is required to purchase 4 of the 16 residential units for a total of $5 million. During the city's ownership of these 4 units, they will be leased back to New Age, and the lease payment will be equal to, for the first 5 years of the lease, 4% annually, which equates to $200,000 a year. In the last 2 years of the lease, it goes up to 5%, which is $250,000 annually. During the city's ownership and leaseback of these units, the city has 0 cost with these units. All costs will be paid by New Age. In addition, the units themselves will be placed into the rental pool for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and will be rented to hotel guests. The city will receive the applicable TOT on those rentals like we would any other hotel room. During our ownership, the city retains the right to sell these units to any buyer at any point for any reason. At the end of the term, at the end of the lease term, the 7-year lease term, the city has the right to sell them to any buyer, or New Age is required to purchase them back from the city for our original purchase price. And the determining factor for the city will be what is the market value of these units. So for example, if the market value of the units was $6 million, we would sell them on the market because we'd get $1 million profit. If it was $4 million, we would require the developer to purchase them back from us of our original purchase price of $5 million. There is one change that is required in the operating covenant to make this happen, which is noted on page 9-2 of the staff report. There is no impact to this section of the agreement as a result of this change. And the fiscal impact here is the purchase price of $5 million will be funded from the Ritz Spa Suite Reserve that the city established in 2012. And then upon execution of the purchase and the subsequent lease agreements, New Age Rancho Mirage LLC will pay the city $200,000 for the first year's lease payment. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, does council have any questions, please?
Just a comment. I think your committee obviously did a great job in putting this program together. It was very important in the finalization of the Ritz contract and getting the Ritz Hotel finished, our ability to step in and provide some funding for them through this purchase. But if you look at the amount of money that the city can make off of this program as compared to leaving your money in a money market account like it is right now, we're going to be earning 4% for the first 5 years versus 1% that would be earned in the money market account. And if the project runs through the 7 years of contributions, we're going to make about $1.5 million in cash flow over that period of time. So it's a great program for the city. We're earning 3% more on our money than we would if it were sitting in a regular reserve account. And we think it's a great deal for the Ritz-Carlton. It has made them stronger, and they're really looking forward to work with us in the future. So I think everybody should be complimented on the council for putting this program together several years ago and making it strong for the city and for the Ritz. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm going to have one additional comment. Kind of going along with what Richard just said. When this event started, that is the event of putting together a package to keep the Ritz-Carlton project alive in Rancho Mirage instead of falling to its death as every other project in the valley was collapsing. I just want to acknowledge also, as Richard said, it was an effort of the entire council, and Ron Mepos was a big part of that effort. And I just think this is a good time to remember Ron's ability to give us insight with respect to numbers and to see issues. This is an agreement that I've never seen a city council come up with anything similar to it. This is just an outstanding agreement for the city in so many ways that time doesn't allow us to really go through it. But I just wanted to also include Ron Mepos as having contributed significantly to this.
That's a nice comment, Dana. I'm sure it's appreciated by all. Are there any other comments of any
Just
kind?
one comment. You notice this is a Sixth Amendment. Just want to point out for the record that the previous amendments were all related to the prior developer requesting extensions. So they're not asking for all these different changes, just this one.
I love it when you talk so softly. Makes me be able to assume that you said this in support of something I or Richard said when you may not have.
Oh, usually when we're together, we're usually yelling at each other.
Not unusual, Dana. Are there any other council comments? If not, I'll ask if there are any public comments regarding this issue. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the comments, and I'll make a motion that the City Council approve the following actions related to the purchase of the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage Spa Suites. That the City Council approve the Sixth Amendment to the First Amendment, amended and fully restated operating covenant between the City of Rancho Mirage and New Age Rancho Mirage LLC. That the City Council approve the purchase and sale agreement and joint escrow instructions between the City of Rancho Mirage and New Age Rancho Mirage LLC for the city's purchase of the 4 spa suites, and authorize the city attorney to enter the legal descriptions, and that the City Council approve the 4 residential lease agreements between the City of Rancho Mirage and New Age Rancho Mirage LLC for lease of 4 spa suites by the city, and authorize the city attorney to enter the legal descriptions.
Second.
Please vote. And the motion is approved 5-0. Congratulations to all that worked on this for many, many years. And again, as I can only echo the comments previously, it's a great accomplishment. The next item will be presented by Isaiah Hagerman, our Director of Administrative Services, regarding the opposing use of Measure A taxpayer funds. Isaiah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The resolution before you today is the enactment of the city's proposed formal position against the use of any Measure A funds on the construction or maintenance of the CV Link. And the purpose of my presentation today is really just to set the record straight of why has the city taken this position, what information have we considered during this process, and why is this resolution here before you today. So really what we're going to talk about is, the first one is Is Measure A going to be used for the CV Link? The answer is yes, in two ways. $20 million for the construction and a proposed $600,000 per year for operations and maintenance. The next item that we're going to review is why is this inappropriate? Why are we against the use of our Measure A funds in this manner? Well, there's two reasons for that. The first one being is we believe it is illegal. We believe this violates the Measure A ordinance. The second item that we consider is the availability of transportation funds. Everybody fully recognizes that we don't have enough transportation funds to maintain our streets and roads. So we feel that it is highly inappropriate to take so much of our limited transportation funds and apply it to the CV Link. Our streets and roads are the priority, not the CV Link. So let's go through. How did we determine that Measure A will be used for the CV Link? Can we get? So we're going to be going through a series of documents. The first one I'm going to bring up is if you've heard anything from CVAG, Rancho Mirage has been very vocal about their proposed use of Measure A. We held a public vote. That was one of our advisory questions that we proposed, and almost 81% of our residents said, you're right, you should not use Measure A for the CV Link. 81%. So CVAG has since kind of publicly backed away from Measure A. They use ambiguous terms like CVAG transportation funds, and they really try to distract people from the fact that they're going to be taking our Measure A funds for the CV Link. So here's one example. This is a CVAG bulletin. So this is issued by the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, and this is their CV Link update. So they give you a general description of what is Measure A. Measure A is a half-cent sales tax that the voters approved for transportation projects, and this was countywide. So this is for the entire Riverside County. So one of the first questions, how much Measure A funding has been used for CV Link? Their answer is none. And then, could Measure A funding be used for the CV Link? They say yes, as long as it does not delay any other pending high priority project. And you'll see here, and I'm going to just underline it for you. They note that the executive committee, which is the governing body of CVAG, voted in February 2012 to commit up to $20 million in regional transportation dollars to provide a match for grants. So their conclusion is that those CVAG transportation dollars could include Measure A, but it also could include other funding sources. So again, this is kind of their way of throwing people off the Measure A issue. So this February 2012 action, we're going to talk about what that was, because this is where we're grabbing the $20 million from Measure A funds that they're going to use for the CV Link. So back in February 2012, CVAG was applying for Sentinel mitigation funds for the CV Link. In order to qualify for that grant, they had to pledge and commit matching funds. So on February 27th, 2012, they went to the executive committee of CVAG and they asked for a commitment of $20 million, and the staff report stated CVAG transportation funds. So this $20 million of CVAG transportation funds to commit as matching funds for the Sentinel money that they're getting for the CV Link. And the reason that this is important is it has come up recently where they're now going to start, for the first time, spending these Sentinel funds. They're using those funds on the Cathedral City Early Action segment. So their commitment of Measure A funds, the $20 million in Measure A funds, as soon as they start to spend the Sentinel grant, they've locked in that $20 million of Measure A funds because they committed those funds as matching as they spent the Sentinel funds. So back in February 27th, 2012, you have to go to the audio file from that executive committee meeting. And what we've done is we've got that clip here where the mayor from Desert Hot Springs asks, what is CVAG transportation funds? What does that mean? And what you'll see is the response from Tom Kirk. So we only took the clip that pertains to that question right there, because right now, for the purpose of this presentation, that's what we're concerned with. How did we establish that the $20 million in CVAG transportation funds was in fact Measure A? So in the course of committing these Measure A funds to matching funds for the Sentinel grant, this was the response from Tom Kirk when he was asked from the representative from Desert Hot Springs, what does CVAG transportation funds? What does that mean? What is it?
You also mentioned the Measure A funds.
Are those the transportation funds we're talking about?
Yes, they are. Measure A funds are the proposed transportation funding source.
And Tom, you talked, I think she asked another question about how much is that envisioned to be?
Yeah, we provided a fiscal analysis. We talked more about it in the Transportation Committee, of up to $20 million of Measure A funds.
So right there is the audio file of the meeting before the vote of the executive director of CVAG, Tom Kirk, telling every elected official in that room that the $20 million was Measure A funds, and the commitment to match this grant was $20 million in Measure A funds. Now, when you look at the application, there's even further evidence. So the Sentinel grant application, they even note what the matching funds are. So we're going to skip down to page 20 here. Right here, this is the table when they applied for this grant. What are our matching funds? So table A2, right here. You see the first one right here? What's that date right there? February 27th, 2012, 20 million. That was the audio recording we just heard. He told every elected official on the executive committee before they approved this item that the 20 million was Measure A funds. So in addition to the 20 million, we also have further evidence that CVAG will use Measure A funds, not only for the construction, but also on the maintenance. And we have a staff report here. The subject here, up at the top, is Establish and Fund CV Link Operations and Maintenance Fund. And the person that put the staff report together was Tom Kirk, the executive director of CVAG. So the executive director was seeking approval to establish an agreement to fund the CV Link operations and maintenance. So within this staff report, and I'm just going to go to the key areas that we are concerned with right now, and I'll underline it, use of CVAG regional Measure A funds for O&M, operations and maintenance, of the CV Link. Right here, they note that it's about $600,000 a year. They get into a little bit more detail on the next page with this column right here, and they break down of the $1.6 million in total CV Link operations and maintenance. They break down that the $622,328 could be Measure A funds. Now, what is so important about using Measure A funds for maintenance of a facility? Well, the ordinance, the Measure A ordinance, the law says in order for you to use Measure A funds for the maintenance, you have to use Measure A funds on the construction of that facility. So you would have to first use Measure A funds to build it, then it's eligible for you to use it for preventative maintenance of that facility. So clearly, all the way along, CVAG has intended to use our limited transportation funds, our Measure A funds, divert them away from the true need, which is our streets and roads, and apply them to the CV Link. Also in this agreement, there was attached to the staff report, they actually attached the agreement that they wanted every city to approve. And within that, they further talk about Measure A. So in addition to it being in the body of the staff report, they also attached an agreement that would work as the framework for funding the operations and maintenance of the CV Link, where Measure A is all over the place. A few pages later, item number 6. Again, they mention the use of Measure A funds for O&M of the CV Link, which is very important to note because that facility has to be built with Measure A funds in order for it to be eligible for maintenance. So let's get into, those are the documents and the information that we rely on when we say and we asked our voters, do you agree with the use of Measure A on the CV Link? And over 80% said no, we don't think that's a proper use. Now let's get into the limited transportation funds that we have that we're all facing. It's a major issue for California. And then 2, let's look at the ordinance itself, the Measure A ordinance itself, and let's read what it says CVAG can do with the regional Measure A funds. So I'm not going to read this whole article, but there was a press enterprise that was co-authored by County Board of Supervisors John Benoit. And really what is happening in California is the way that we fund our roads, it just doesn't work with the way the transportation system works right now. Every city, the county, the state has seen massive decreases in transportation funding. And the primary reason for that is the way that we fund our roads is a tax on gasoline. Well, in California, that tax has been significantly decreasing. So local government actually has less money today than it did in years prior and a more robust transportation system. So the need is higher, yet the funding is lower. Luckily, in Riverside County, the voters approved Measure A, that half-cent sales tax increase to help fill the gap for our transportation funding. Even with Measure A, we still don't have enough money. This article, I'll just read the first paragraph here. It says, roads in Riverside County rank as some of the worst in the country. Our infrastructure is riddled with aging bridges, crumbling asphalt, and potholes that cause costly repairs for drivers. And you ask anybody in the transportation business, they will tell you we don't have enough funding. As the price of gasoline has decreased, that impacted the amount of tax we collect. In addition, as more fuel-efficient cars and 100% electric cars have come into the marketplace, that has decreased the quantity of gas that people are buying. So it's really a double whammy. Prices are down and people are consuming less gas. There's more fuel efficiency out there. Some vehicles don't even use gas at all. And what that has all resulted in the state of California is we don't have enough transportation funds to fund our transportation system. So let's get into the Measure A ordinance. So the law, what did voters approve? In 2002, when the voters reapproved and extended Measure A for another 30-year period, they most likely saw this. It's the preamble, and I am going to read a section of the preamble because this is most likely what the voters saw. So it starts, the transportation system in Riverside County is rapidly deteriorating and our population and economy are growing rapidly. Maintenance and repairs of existing roadways and improvements to relieve congestion cannot be accomplished with available funds. Without additional funds, the system will bog down and pavement will crumble into permanent disrepair. So basically telling the voters, if you don't improve this half-cent sales tax for transportation, this is what's going to happen to your streets and roads. Now, the Measure A ordinance itself is broken up into two pieces. There's the body of the ordinance, and then there's an expenditure plan that is attached to the ordinance. The expenditure plan is really the meat of the Measure A rules. So how are we going to implement this program? And the expenditure plan that is attached to the ordinance and referenced and part of the law is broken into three areas. You got Western Riverside, you've got the Coachella Valley, then you got the Blythe area. So for us, we're only concerned with the Coachella Valley area. So we're going to go now to the area of the Measure A ordinance where we talk about the Coachella Valley. Here we go. Coachella Valley. So within the Coachella Valley section of the Measure A ordinance expenditure plan, there is a general introduction to the Coachella Valley. They list who is part of it. Then they have some bullet points here that you can see on the screen, and these are talking about the Coachella Valley in general. What's going to follow on the next 3 pages is there are 3 sections in the Coachella Valley, and they split up the money. The first section gets 50% of the money, and that's the regional Measure A funds that go to CVAG. The second section is your local streets and roads. That is 35% of the Measure A money that goes to your cities and counties for local streets and roads. The third section is 15% to Sunline Transit Agency to support public transit. So this general introductory section that lists these common bullet points talk about the Coachella Valley in general. So let's get specific. Let's go to those 3 areas, and specifically, since CVAG wants to use their regional Measure A money on the CV link, let's see what it says for the CVAG section of the Measure A ordinance and what they can use their funds on. So you can see the title of the CVAG section is State Highways and Major Regional Road Project. That's the title of their section. And I'm just going to read this first paragraph for you, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the sections that are significant. So 50%, that means that 50% of the Measure A dollars in the Coachella Valley go to CVAG for this regional purpose, which we're about ready to find out. What can CVAG do with this Measure A money? So 50% of the Measure A revenues will be used for state highways and regional road improvements. The Transportation Project Prioritization Study, TPPS, developed through the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, CVAG, will function as the plan for future needs. Here's this preventative maintenance part. Preventative maintenance of these Measure A funded arterials will be allowed if a majority of the Coachella Valley local governments give approval. So again, there's that wording that requires that it had to be built with Measure A funds. So these Measure A funded facilities. So let's go back up to the top, because really the first sentence is the most important. So I'm going to underline these words right here. So let's read it again. 50% of the Measure A revenues will be used for state highways and regional road improvements. So what CVAG is telling us is that the CV Link is either a state highway or a regional road. That's the only way that the CV Link would be able to qualify for Measure A funds, for the regional Measure A funds, is if it meets the definition of a state highway or a regional road. Clearly, the CV Link is not a state highway or a regional road. Now, from the very beginning, we've been saying that CVAG was going to add the CV Link to this transportation project prioritization study, the TPPS report, because it has to be on that report in order for CVAG to use it. So one, it's got to meet the definition of a regional road, and then two, it has to be on this TPPS report. We've been saying from the very beginning that CVAG was going to add the CV Link to this TIPS report because we've known from the beginning that they were wanting to use Measure A for the CV Link. That happened this past June. There were 2 dissenting votes, Rancho Mirage and Indian Wells. Other than that, everyone voted to put the CV Link on the TPPS report. The rest of the Coachella Valley area, again, is not applicable to the argument for CV Link because that's not the proposed Measure A that they're trying to use. So here it is, number 2, local streets and roads. This is 35% of the revenue. This goes to your cities and to your counties for our local streets and roads. And then the third category is public transit. This 15% of the money goes to Sunline Transit Agency. So CVAG is telling everybody that voted for Measure A that really the CV Link is a regional road and it qualifies for our regional Measure A funds. This is the core of why the city of Rancho Mirage has taken the position that we have, is we do not believe that this is a permitted use of our Measure A funds because of that right there. In addition, the city of Rancho Mirage, in our last election, put 4 CV Link related items on the ballot. One of them was binding, the other 3 were advisory. So the advisory votes were really, tell us your opinion. So the city took the extra step of saying, look, residents, this is what we think about the use of Measure A. Tell us what you think. And the question that I have highlighted here was Measure 4 on the ballot, and I'm just going to read it to you. Because in 2002, county voters approved Measure A, which is a half-cent increase in our sales tax to be used to repair dilapidated and crumbling roads and highways in the Coachella Valley. Should CVAG be allowed to divert up to $20 million from this Measure A fund to pay for the construction of the neighborhood electric vehicle portion of the CV Link? That was the question. Should they use $20 million of these Measure A funds for the neighborhood electric vehicle portion of the CV Link? And the results of that election were 80.61 said no. So that's, in a nutshell, some of the information that the city has relied on to take the position that we have. We feel like the use of Measure A funds on the CV Link is, 1, not in accordance with the Measure A ordinance, and 2, given the current state of our streets and roads and our bridges and available funding, is highly inappropriate. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I didn't like about your presentation is you were able to use all those devices, and all the times I've been talking on it, I just got to kind of slop through that. You look so much more informed and technical than I was.
That's because he's young.
I say I have a question, and you did a great job, great presentation. Basically, what are we now voting on for this resolution that's not already in place?
Sure. So the resolution before you is really just a summation of all the information that we have and have gone through. You know, we got the results of our election. We just showed you a partial amount of the documents that we're looking at and relying on. So this resolution is the formal position of the city against the use of Measure A funds for the construction and maintenance of the CV Link.
So this is not a binding resolution as the resolution was that regarding the vote that we already had, that we just made the elections say that the public had to take it to a vote to change our position.
Yes.
Does this have any is it binding at all, or is it what?
It's binding on the city until till a subsequent council changes it.
This would be binding on any representative of the city council who serves on any board or commission at CVAG. So when the issue comes up with respect to using any Measure A funds to fund the operation or maintenance or construction of CV Link, all of you would be obligated to vote against that. In addition, this resolution also addresses the indirect funding of CV Link through using Measure A funds as matching funds for a grant to construct, maintain, or operate CV Link.
One other thing I would say that it does is it places into official status the advisory vote that the public took when they voted 80.61% against using Measure A funds. That has no binding effect on the city. This does.
All good points. Are there any other council comments? I will ask the public if the public has any comments. Seeing none, I will ask for a motion regarding this resolution.
Well,
all right, I'll make the motion, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage opposing the use of Measure A funds per 0.5% sales tax per N to fund and or co-fund the construction, operation and or maintenance of CV Link, or to use Measure A funds as matching funds for any grants for the same. Second. Please vote. And the resolution is passed 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to suggest at the next meeting that the city attorney and staff put together a resolution, if that's what it requires, to rescind the authority of CV Link / CVAG to use Ramon Road for a transportation route for CV Link. They have, as I understand it, they have voted officially not to use Ramon Road. And we have left it open now for many months to see if they wanted to use it, because we had always said from the beginning that we were not opposed to CV Link going through Rancho Mirage down a route that we suggested and we approved, which was Ramon Road. They have rejected it flatly and finally, and I think that we should rescind any open invitation for them to use Ramon Road, and that if they decide at some future time that they would like to use Ramon Road, they would have to come back to the city and get new city council approval for such a use. And that would be what I would ask city attorney and staff to put together for our next meeting, so that we don't have that loose end dangling out there that they don't want to begin with. They don't appreciate our making that available to them, and consequently we should rescind it and get us back to the status quo ante and start it over again in the event they change their minds.
Any comments? I assume that our city attorney will take care of that. The next is you'll review the closed session, please.
Okay, at this point, the City Council is going to recess in a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4 regarding two potential initiation of litigation items. Council will also confer with the City Attorney regarding the existing litigation of Veronica Juarez versus City of Rancho Mirage pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. And finally, the Council will be discussing the existing litigation named Oasis Ranch LLC versus City of Rancho Mirage pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9.
And we will now recess to closed session.